bikes and trying to get the 1,000,000 point score on Tony Hawk's Pro Skater on the PlayStation. However, Paul's aptitude for studying soon became apparent, an aptitude that is truly astounding and something I've never seen since. Put it down to the fact that his mum chose his course for him, or that he was simply too busy, but what most people take 3 years to do, Paul managed in 3 months. Namely, the last 3 months before his exams, when he realised he hadn't done any work, and he'd better crack on and learn some stuff. But buck up his ideas he did, and aided by my ability to cut things out and stick them nicely on a piece of paper, Paul managed to score himself a degree. A degree in sports science, but a degree nonetheless. After uni, the wider world began calling, and with our tickets on our hands, 2 fresh-faced and innocent young men journeyed to deepest, darkest Bangkok and the start of our around-the-world adventure. Or at least, that's what should have happened, but despite being at the airport in plenty of time, through no fault of our own, we missed our flight and spent the first night in the Heathrow Hilton. And things quickly went downhill from there. Now I could stand here and tell you about the adventures we got up to while we were away. But like the Americans say, what goes on tour stays on tour, and it wouldn't be fair to anyone involved, especially not the ladyboy that Paul accidentally chatted up. Needless to say, we had some truly incredible and awe-inspiring experiences on that trip, adventures that will stay with me for the rest of my life. But spending so much time living in each other's pockets, and sharing a bed for that matter, sadly put a strain on our relationship, and within a short while we wanted nothing more than to rip each other's heads off and kick them out to sea. But it was nothing that jumping on a plane and not talking for 6 months couldn't solve. Now, the reason I bring up this story tale is this. It is our experiences that shape us, and I believe that that period of our lives helped us both grow from boys to men, to focus on what we wanted our lives to become, to learn about ourselves and each other, and in the long run build our friendship in what it has become today. So Paul, I just want to take this opportunity to say, you can be a right arse. But without the experiences that we have shared, I wouldn't be the man I am today. So thanks. And to Claire, you are a warm, kind and loving woman, and you look truly beautiful today. From the moment that I met you, it was clear just how well suited you are to each other, how comfortable you both seem together, and how great a life I'm sure you will have. Not only has Paul met someone in you with whom he can truly be himself, but it's clear that you make him want to be a better man. It's a real joy to see you and Paul together. And on that note, may I hand over the baton to Mr. Tom Baxter.
Hello.
Yeah, you're right.
Thank you, Tristan. I read on the internet that best man speeches have a strong beginning, a memorable end, and nothing much in between. As I'm the second of the 3 best men, and therefore my whole speech is the middle, I'll try and keep this brief. I first met Paul back when we were in our early teens. One thing that quickly became apparent was his determination when he puts his mind to something. At the time, that something was making money. It started off with Saturday shifts at the local butcher. It didn't seem to matter how late we were out on Friday night, Paul would always have disappeared off to work by the time the rest of us got up in the morning. It was there he learned invaluable skills such as how to defrost a turkey with a hairdryer so he can sell it as fresh, and how to make sausages out of the bits of the animal that would really be better put in the rubbish bin. Later we all discovered Scattergood's Employment Agency, a local agency with no qualms about allowing teenage boys to work 100+ hour weeks. Paul managed to rack up some truly ridiculous hours working night shifts with me at a supermarket, while also working full-time shifts during the day. This led to me discovering one of Paul's other defining characteristics, his ability to fall asleep nearly anywhere. Every night, as regular as clockwork, Paul would down the tins of dog food he was stacking and head towards the toilet. After about 20 minutes, it would become apparent that he wasn't returning on his own accord, so I'd have to go and investigate. Peeking through the toilet door would invariably find Paul, trousers round ankles, slumped over his knees and fast asleep. On another occasion, Paul was working as the night shift at a local hotel. He was tasked with the job of laying up the tables for the next day's wedding during the night. At some point in the wee hours, exhaustion got the better of him. When the hotel manager brought the bride and groom in the next morning to view the room, they were shocked to find a dishevelled Paul fast asleep at the top table in the bride's chair. A few weeks ago, I was sat on my sofa at home, holding our newborn baby and wondering what I was going to talk about in this speech. Such a quiet moment is rare in my household, and this case was only a brief exception. My ponderings were soon interrupted by our 2-year-old son charging into the room, leaping onto my lap and landing with both knees squarely in my groin. The resulting groan, which escaped me, caused the baby to start crying, and this in turn caused my wife Mari to start yelling at me for waking the baby. I realised at this point that I was uniquely positioned amongst the 3 best men to offer Paul some advice on married life. Once Mari had calmed down a bit, I asked her what advice she thought would be most useful. She mentioned patience, respect, humour, and above all, love. I, of course, agreed with her. Which brings me on to my real advice. If in doubt, agree with Claire. She is, let's face it, probably right, and you'll most likely save yourselves a lot of arguments in the future. Before writing this speech, I sat down with Sonia and John one evening recently to see if they could provide us with any suitably embarrassing material from Paul's youth. Not only did they provide the photos, most of the photos, which should be being passed around the room, but they also provided a copy of all of the emails Paul sent home during his time travelling abroad. While this folder contained more amusing anecdotes than even 3 best men could ever need, sadly most of them were too colourful to repeat here. One thing that did come across from reading the emails, however, was how important Paul's family are to him. This was particularly evident in one email he wrote when he was teaching English in Korea. He wrote a poem to his dad. I thought it would embarrass him suitably if I read it now. Although actually, he's written his own poem to his wife. Very good poem it was too, so maybe he won't be that embarrassed. But here it is anyway. The beginning always poses questions of the best way to depart, the choices to make, what directions to take. Thinking time over, let's start. How can a man thank another man for an introduction and an insight to life? You have paved me the way, helped me when I stray, you and my mother, your wife. The depths of my appreciation, I'm not sure you will ever know. You gave me the wheel and let me feel. Your nurture allowed me to grow. A fine man once said to his son, and he's still a fine man, nothing less, you can achieve anything you set your mind to. Don't worry, my son, do your best. I must proclaim, some actions may have tested. Plainly, most relationships will have their ups and downs. However, in me you have invested, despite contingent frowns. I would like to thank you for my chance. And you, Hasiu, is traditional, so I fix my sights and steady my stance, for I know that your love's unconditional. So I draw to a close this lyrical babble, as the glow on the mount signals dawn. I'm still in Korea, in teaching I dabble. Sincerely, the eldest, firstborn. Well, that's about it for me. All that remains to be said is what an honour it is to be stood up here helping celebrate the marriage of Paul and Claire. I've seldom seen Paul so happy as he has been since he's met Claire. It's frankly amazing that he's managed to persuade her to marry him, but I'm very glad that he did, and I'm sure that this will be the start of a very special marriage. I'll pass you over now to Mike for that memorable ending I was talking about.
Really quite tough to follow this up. Bewilderingly fantastic speeches all round. So let's just pause it. So we've sort of worked in retrograde, backwards, sort of to the earliest days of my relationship with Paul. Peeling away the layers of a pickled onion is one way you might be able to put it. Another analogy which is a little bit verbose, contemplating a basket of eggs that became the nutritious omelette that is the remarkable human that Paul is today. Before we all got cracking together. I first met Paul as a scout, and it quickly became apparent that there was common ground between us. More importantly, there was only about a 4-minute bike ride, 7-minute sprint, or 1 3/4 hour stumble between our houses. This, and as it turned out, our mutual proximity to Chinthurst Hill has no doubt helped forge a friendship that I know will and always remain to be as timeless as that topographical feature that is featured so heavily in our adolescence for various reasons, which we won't go into. We might touch upon, I don't know. As scouts, we learnt fundamental skills that have served us well in our young adult lives. Navigation, hand-to-hand combat, cookery, delivering really effective mallet wedgies have all featured heavily in the curriculum. For those of you uninitiated with what a mallet wedgie is, we'll be providing a demonstration with my brother later on. Or Luke, you know. One of the highlights of our scouting year was backwards camp, where armed with only a Barnet Diablo catapult, a Black Widow catapult, between us, we would camp out in the most primitive of conditions, cut off from all communications, dehydrated and deprived of sleep, which, as I understand it, is much like parenting. So I'm sure Paul's going to enjoy and excel in that responsibility as well. Although I'd advise against shooting your leader in the bum with acorns, unless we're speaking metaphorically, in which case I have absolutely no idea what you're on about. Following a low-key mixed spirits toast, which is one of those kind of concoctions you make when you're 14, which obviously involves spirits which you nick from your parents' liquor cabinet. Yeah. John's familiar with this concept. Low-key ceremony in the park, to which unfortunately my dear father, who was missing the pub to collect us that evening from Scouts, was not invited to. We boldly ventured forth into adolescence. End of Scouts, kind of a bit of a watershed. A world where girls blowing stuff up, clubs, music, cars, working to pay for the cars that we crashed, and lager featured heavily. Although I must confess, I've only got one French banger tucked away at the moment. I think we need to up the ante on that one, chaps. Perhaps a little trip to France might be called for. I don't know where they're going for the honeymoon, but maybe we can work something out along those lines. So, where are we now? Some of the qualities I'd recognised in those early days and admired in Paul were his vision, balanced approach to life, and charisma. Unfortunately, the first two have somewhat fallen by the wayside in recent years, but his charisma remains, coupled with a tremendous tenacity and commitment that I will know will underlie a lifelong joyous marriage to the amazing Claire. You're fantastic, and we're extremely grateful. Oh, I've read the end bit before I'd got to the bit before that. That's all right. There is something to be said about having a before I speak, I must say. The demands of adult life have led us quickly into a world of work, which we're going to touch on here, which began at the Bramley Grange Hotel. It's a very recurring theme, work. How it is that two 16-year-olds were left to run a singles bar in a Surrey hotel on a Sunday night remains to be a mystery. But potentially due to the HR inefficiencies of said establishment, the hotel burnt down a couple of years later. So fortunately that will remain a secret. Now I know Tristan has already thanked the parents for creating and nurturing such a wonderful individual. And here's a hear to that. Yeah. Thank you. Martin and Sue, great work. Thank you, but I feel like I owe an extra expression of gratitude to John and Sonia, who even when on holiday couldn't necessarily escape the consequences of the friendship between me and Paul. So at this point really John should tell this story, but I'll just sort of paint a very kind of vague picture. Here we are, I'm going to set the scene. Family holiday, France, beach, relaxing with the family, emptying the mind. Headland, little guy in a dinghy. That's Mike in the dinghy. Hello guys! And actually, consequently, our families got together and had a fantastic time. So, you know, it's been fantastic. And I think, you know, it's more than obviously the relationship between me and Paul. Friendships between our parents is obviously a very wonderful thing, so we're very lucky. So I'm just going to finish with a couple of kind of random lessons. Tom's already touched on some helpful tips here, but this might be something that you could pass on to your kids. So if you're going to borrow a car, ask beforehand. And if you're going to borrow a car, it's best to drive on the road as opposed to in a playing field. You guys are just going to have to go and work out shall I explain the situation? John, shall I explain the situation? No, maybe not. You can work it out when you're driving.
I love one. I love an explanation.
Okay, moving on. Yeah, actually, I'm not even sure I'm going to cover these topics. I think we'll just leave it at that, actually. Thank you very much, John and Sonia, for being the most amazing parents to Paul, and really supporting and really generally being extremely understanding. Thank you very much. So it only remains for me to propose a toast to the bride and groom. So please be upstanding. To the bride and groom.
Bride and groom! Yes.
Paul, just before you go, I want to present something to you, if I may personally.
Isn't your daughter enough? Oh, here we go.
This is something. Sorry, I don't like it. This is something I think you would really appreciate. I've had thought about buying you a Southampton football season ticket, but there's only 18 games to go, not 40 odd in the First Division. And I thought to myself, what would be best? A season ticket, a shirt you're not going to wear very often, or a scarf? But I thought to myself, this was something you could look at every single day and have your coffee in it. There you go.
Ladies and gentlemen, before you get too comfortable, I'm now going to ask you all, please, to get up, or charge your glasses before you get up, move from here back out to the front hall, where the main reason is the cutting of the cake. But it's also so we can clear that area and some of this area, particularly that one, because that's where the bar is going to be. So the sooner you go out, the quicker we can get back to drinking. Thank you.
Everyone out!